God never fails. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I want you to lean in and hear me clearly this morning. God never fails. I don't care what you're facing, what storm is raging, or what mountain seems immovable, our God is still faithful. He is still sovereign. He is still able. You see, life has a way of testing us. Oh, yes, it does. It'll throw you into the fire, toss you into the lion's den, and dare you to stand firm. The enemy will whisper lies in your ear, saying it's over, you're done, you've lost. But let me remind you today of something unshakable, something unmovable, something eternal. God never fails. When he brought the Israelites out of Egypt, they thought the Red Sea would stop them. But God stepped in and parted it. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, they thought he'd be devoured. But God shut the mouths of those lions. When Jesus hung on that cross, the enemy thought he had won. But early on Sunday morning, somebody shout, early Jesus rose with all power in his hands. God never fails. I know what you're thinking, but what about my situation? My finances are in chaos. My relationships are falling apart. My health is failing. Listen to me, the promise is not that life won't hurt. The promise is that God won't fail. He didn't promise you an easy road, but he promised you a faithful destination. He didn't promise you a life without battles, but he promised you victory in every one of them. Somebody needs to hear this today. When you can't see his hand, trust his heart. When you don't understand the why, trust the who. Our God is not a man that he should lie. If he said it, he'll do it. If he spoke it, it will come to pass. He is a way maker, a miracle worker, a promise keeper, and a light in the darkness. That's who he is. I dare you to think back over your life. Think about the moments you thought it was over, the moments you thought you wouldn't make it. But look at you now. You're still here. You're still standing. Because God never fails. So when the enemy comes knocking, when doubt tries to creep in, when life feels like it's falling apart, you stand on this truth: God never fails. His timing may not be our timing, but his timing is always perfect. His methods may not be our methods, but his ways are higher than our ways. I'll leave you with this: trust him. Even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense, trust him. Because he is faithful and his word is true. And if you don't remember anything else I've said today, remember this: God never fails. God's faithfulness is unchanging. It is the foundation upon which all of creation rests, in the assurance that every promise he has made will come to pass. From the beginning of time, God has shown himself to be steadfast, dependable, and unwavering in his commitment to his people. His faithfulness is not conditional, nor is it swayed by circumstances or human behavior. It is a reflection of his character, perfect, eternal, and unchanging. The consistency of God's faithfulness is a cornerstone of our faith, providing us with hope and security even in the most turbulent of times. When we consider the unchanging nature of God's faithfulness, it is essential to understand that it is not based on merit. God does not extend his faithfulness because we deserve it or because we have earned it. His faithfulness is rooted in who he is, not in what we do. In the book of Lamentations, we are reminded of this truth: the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, his mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning, great is your faithfulness. These words were spoken during a time of great distress and lament. Yet they highlight a profound truth: God's faithfulness remains constant even in the midst of suffering and sorrow. Throughout Scripture, we see countless examples of God's unchanging faithfulness. When Adam and Eve sinned and brought brokenness into the world, God did not abandon them. Instead, he provided a promise of redemption, declaring that the seed of the woman would crush the serpent's head. This promise, given in the earliest chapters of Genesis, demonstrates God's unwavering commitment to his plan of salvation. He did not waver, even though humanity continued to rebel against him. He remained faithful to his word, fulfilling his promise through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Consider the story of Noah. The world had become corrupt and filled with violence, yet God chose Noah, a righteous man, to preserve life and carry on his covenant. God instructed Noah to build an ark, promising to save him and his family from the coming flood. Despite the ridicule Noah likely faced in the immense task before him, he trusted in God's faithfulness. And God, true to his word, delivered Noah and his family, proving once again that his promises are reliable and his faithfulness endures. Another profound example of God's unchanging faithfulness is found in the life of Abraham. God called Abraham to leave his homeland and go to a place he would show him, promising to make him the father of many nations. Despite the impossibility of the situation, Abraham and his wife Sarah were well beyond childbearing years. Abraham believed in God's promise. And God, faithful as always, fulfilled his word, giving Abraham and Sarah a son, Isaac. Through their lineage, God's covenant continued, ultimately leading to the birth of Jesus, the Savior of the world. God's faithfulness is also evident in the story of the Israelites. Time and time again, they turned away from God, worshiping idols and disobeying his commands. Yet God did not abandon them. He delivered them from slavery in Egypt, parted the Red Sea, and led them through the wilderness with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Even when they doubted his provision and complained, he remained faithful, providing manna from heaven and water from a rock. When they reached the promised land, God fulfilled his promise, giving them a land flowing with milk and honey. Despite their failures and unfaithfulness, God's faithfulness to his covenant never wavered. The unchanging nature of God's faithfulness is not limited to biblical times. It extends to us today. Every breath we take, every sunrise we witness, and every heartbeat we feel is a testament to his faithfulness. He sustains all things by his word, ensuring that the universe operates with precision and order. The seasons change, the tides ebb and flow, and the stars remain fixed in the sky, all because of his unchanging faithfulness. Even when we face trials and uncertainties, we can rest assured that God is still in control and that his promises are still true. In our own lives, we often encounter situations that test our faith. Perhaps we face financial struggles, health challenges, broken relationships, or the loss of a loved one. In those moments, it can be easy to question God's faithfulness. We may wonder if he sees our pain, if he hears our prayers, or if he will come through for us. Yet even in the midst of our doubts and fears, God remains faithful. He is not intimidated by our questions, nor is he offended by our struggles. Instead, he meets us where we are, reminding us of his presence and his promises. God's faithfulness is unchanging because it is grounded in his character. He is not like man who changes his mind or breaks his word. God is immutable, meaning he does not change. His promises are as sure today as they were thousands of years ago. When he says he will never leave us nor forsake us, we can trust that he means it. When he promises to work all things together for our good, we can hold on to that truth, even when our circumstances seem to suggest otherwise. When he declares that nothing can separate us from his love, we can rest in the assurance that his faithfulness will never fail. One of the most beautiful aspects of God's faithfulness is that it is not dependent on our own faithfulness. Even when we fall short, God remains steadfast. The Apostle Paul writes in 2 Timothy, if we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. This verse is a powerful reminder that God's faithfulness is not contingent upon our performance. It is a reflection of his nature, and he cannot act contrary to who he is. His faithfulness is a constant, unchanging anchor in a world that is often unstable and unpredictable. As we navigate the complexities of life, we are called to trust in God's faithfulness. Trusting in his faithfulness does not mean that we will never face challenges or hardships. It does not mean that our prayers will always be answered in the way we expect or that our lives will be free from pain. What it does mean is that we can rely on God's promises, knowing that He is working all things together for our good and His glory. It means that we can have peace in the midst of the storm, confident that God is with us and that He will never fail. God's faithfulness is also a source of hope. In a world that is constantly changing, where economies rise and fall, relationships come and go, and circumstances shift like the wind, God's faithfulness provides stability and assurance. It reminds us that we are not alone and that we are not forgotten. It encourages us to keep pressing forward, even when the road is difficult, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. The beauty of God's unchanging faithfulness is that it is not limited by time or space. It transcends generations, cultures, and circumstances. The same God who was faithful to Noah, Abraham, and the Israelites is faithful to us today. He sees our struggles, hears our prayers, and knows our needs. And just as He fulfilled His promises to them, He will fulfill His promises to us. His faithfulness is a constant thread that runs through the fabric of history, weaving together His perfect plan for humanity. As we reflect on God's unchanging faithfulness, we are reminded of His love for us. His faithfulness is not an obligation or a duty, it is an expression of His deep, abiding love. It is a reminder that we are His children, cherished and valued beyond measure. His faithfulness is a gift, a constant source of strength and encouragement in a world that is often filled with uncertainty and pain. It is a reminder that no matter what we face, we can trust in the one who is faithful to the end. Victory amid adversity is a profound theme that resonates deeply with the human spirit. It speaks to the resilience, hope, and faith required to endure life's most challenging moments and emerge victorious on the other side. Adversity is an inevitable part of life, a reality that every individual must face at some point. It takes many forms: loss, failure, pain, rejection, or unforeseen hardships. Yet woven into the fabric of these trials is the potential for victory, a triumph not just over the external circumstances, but over the internal struggles that seek to hold us captive. This victory is not a product of sheer willpower or human strength alone, but is often the result of divine intervention, unshakable faith, and the ability to persevere against all odds. Adversity has a way of revealing the true essence of who we are. It strips away the superficial layers of comfort and security, forcing us to confront our deepest fears, doubts, and insecurities. In these moments, we discover what we truly believe and where our trust lies. Victory in adversity begins with a mindset, a choice to see the struggle not as a permanent state, but as a temporary season with a purpose. It is the recognition that adversity, while painful, is not the end of the story. It is a chapter in a much larger narrative, one in which victory is both promised and attainable. History and Scripture are filled with examples of individuals who experienced victory amid overwhelming adversity. These stories serve as a testament to the transformative power of faith and perseverance. Consider the story of Joseph, who was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned. At any point in his journey, Joseph could have given in to despair, bitterness, or hopelessness. Yet he chose to remain faithful to God, trusting that his circumstances did not define his destiny. In the end, Joseph's faithfulness was rewarded, and he rose to a position of great authority, saving countless lives during a famine. His story illustrates that adversity, no matter how severe, cannot thwart the plans and purposes of God. Victory is always possible when we align ourselves with His will and trust in His timing. The concept of victory amid adversity is not limited to grand, sweeping triumphs. It is also found in the quiet, personal battles that each of us faces daily. It is the single mother who works tirelessly to provide for her children, refusing to give up despite the challenges she encounters. It is the individual battling a chronic illness who chooses gratitude and hope over despair. It is the student who overcomes self-doubt to pursue their dreams and the person who forgives a deep hurt, breaking the chains of bitterness and resentment. These victories may not make headlines or draw applause, but they are no less significant. They are reminders that adversity does not have the final word and that triumph is possible even in the most difficult circumstances. One of the most powerful aspects of victory amid adversity is the transformation it brings. Adversity has a way of refining and strengthening us, much like gold is refined in the fire. It challenges us to grow, to develop resilience, and to deepen our faith. It teaches us lessons that we might not have learned otherwise and prepares us for greater purposes and opportunities. The victories we experience through adversity often have a ripple effect, inspiring and encouraging others who are facing their own struggles. Our testimonies of triumph become a source of hope for those who feel overwhelmed and defeated, reminding them that they too can overcome. Victory amid adversity also requires a shift in perspective. It involves seeing the struggle not as a punishment or an obstacle, but as an opportunity for growth and transformation. This perspective is not always easy to adopt, especially in the midst of pain and uncertainty. However, it is a perspective that can be cultivated through faith and trust in God's sovereignty. When we choose to believe that God is working all things together for our good, even in the face of adversity, we open ourselves to the possibility of victory. This belief does not minimize the pain or difficulty of the struggle, but provides a framework for understanding and navigating it. The process of achieving victory amid adversity often involves perseverance and endurance. These qualities are not developed in moments of ease, but are forged in the crucible of trials. Perseverance requires us to keep going, even when the path is unclear and the weight of the struggle feels unbearable. It is the determination to press forward one step at a time, trusting that the destination is worth the journey. Endurance is the capacity to withstand the pressure and pain of adversity without giving up or giving in. It is the strength to remain steadfast even when the outcome is uncertain. Faith plays a central role in victory amid adversity. It is the anchor that holds us steady when the storms of life threaten to overwhelm us. Faith is not blind optimism or wishful thinking. It is a confident trust in the character and promises of God. It is the belief that He is with us in the midst of the struggle and that He is able to bring about victory in ways we cannot imagine. Faith empowers us to face adversity with courage and hope, knowing that we are not alone and that God is fighting on our behalf. Victory amid adversity is also a deeply personal experience. It looks different for each individual, as our struggles and circumstances are unique. For some, victory may involve overcoming a specific challenge or achieving a particular goal. But for others, it may be about finding peace and contentment in the midst of difficulty or learning to let go of fear and embrace trust. Regardless of the form it takes, victory is a deeply transformative experience that changes us from the inside out. It shapes our character, strengthens our faith, and equips us to face future challenges with greater confidence and resilience. The path to victory amid adversity is rarely easy or straightforward. It often involves setbacks, disappointments, and moments of doubt. There may be times when the struggle feels overwhelming and the victory seems out of reach. Yet it is in these moments that we are called to press on, to hold fast to our faith, and to trust in the promises of God. Victory is not about avoiding adversity or escaping it unscathed. It is about persevering through it and emerging stronger, wiser, and more grounded in our faith. Adversity, while difficult, has a way of revealing our strengths and uncovering hidden potential. It pushes us beyond our comfort zones and challenges us to become the best versions of ourselves. The victories we achieve in the face of adversity are often the result of hard-fought battles and deep personal growth. They remind us of our resilience and our capacity to overcome even the most daunting challenges. These victories are not just for our benefit, they are a testament to the faithfulness and power of God, a witness to his ability to bring beauty from ashes and triumph from tragedy. Victory amid adversity is not just a destination, it is a journey. It is a process of learning, growing, and becoming. It is about discovering the strength and courage that lie within us and recognizing the ways in which God is working in and through our struggles. It is about finding meaning and purpose in the midst of pain and using our experiences to inspire and uplift others. Victory is not about the absence of adversity, but about the presence of hope, faith, and perseverance in the face of it. It is a testament to the power of the human spirit and the unwavering faithfulness of God. Trusting God despite uncertainty is one of the most profound and challenging aspects of faith. Life is filled with moments when the path ahead is unclear, when the answers we seek are hidden, and when the outcomes we hope for remain uncertain. It is in these moments of ambiguity and doubt that the call to trust God becomes both an anchor and a test. Trusting God does not mean that we deny the reality of our circumstances or the depth of our fears. Instead, it is a conscious decision to place our confidence in him, even when we do not understand what he is doing or why he is allowing certain things to happen. Uncertainty can be a breeding ground for anxiety, fear, and doubt. It has a way of amplifying our insecurities and exposing the limits of our control. In a world that values certainty and predictability, the unknown can feel like a threat, a void that demands to be filled with answers and assurances. Yet, as followers of God, we are often called to walk by faith, not by sight. This means stepping forward into the unknown, trusting that God is with us and that his plans for us are good, even when we cannot see the full picture. Trusting God despite uncertainty requires a deep and abiding faith in his character. It means believing that he is good, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. It means trusting that he is sovereign and in control, even when life feels chaotic and unpredictable. It means holding on to the truth that his love for us is unwavering and that his purposes for our lives are ultimately for our benefit and his glory. This kind of trust is not based on what we can see or understand, but on who God is and what he has promised. The journey of trust often begins with surrender. It requires letting go of our need for control, our desire for immediate answers, and our tendency to rely on our own understanding. Surrendering to God does not mean that we stop caring or that we become passive in the face of uncertainty. Rather, it is an active choice to place our trust in him, to release our burdens into his capable hands, and to acknowledge that he knows what is best. Surrender is not a sign of weakness, but a declaration of faith, a recognition that God's wisdom far surpasses our own and that his ways are higher than our ways. Trusting God in times of uncertainty often involves waiting. Waiting can be one of the most difficult aspects of faith, especially when we are eager for answers or resolution. In our fast-paced, results-driven culture, waiting can feel like wasted time or a sign of inactivity. Yet in God's economy, waiting is never wasted. It is a time of preparation, growth, and deepening dependence on him. Waiting teaches us patience and perseverance, and it allows us to experience God's faithfulness in ways we might not otherwise encounter. It is in the waiting that our trust is refined and our faith is strengthened. Uncertainty has a way of drawing us closer to God. It strips away the illusion of self-sufficiency and reminds us of our need for him. When we are faced with the unknown, we are compelled to seek his presence, to pour out our hearts before him, and to listen for his voice. Trusting God in these moments requires a posture of humility, a willingness to admit that we do not have all the answers and that we cannot navigate the uncertainties of life on our own. It is in this posture of dependence that we experience the peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that comes not from the absence of uncertainty, but from the presence of God. Trusting God despite uncertainty is not a one-time decision, but a daily, ongoing choice. It is a commitment to align our thoughts, actions, and attitudes with his truth. even when our feelings and circumstances tempt us to do otherwise. It is a decision to replace fear with faith, to choose hope over despair, and to anchor ourselves in the promises of God rather than the shifting sands of our circumstances. This kind of trust requires intentionality and perseverance, as well as a willingness to lean into God's grace and strength when our own faith feels weak. One of the most powerful aspects of trusting God despite uncertainty is the transformation it brings to our hearts and minds. When we choose to trust Him, we begin to see our circumstances through the lens of His sovereignty and love. Our perspective shifts, and we start to recognize the ways in which He is working in and through our uncertainty. Trusting God allows us to let go of the need to have all the answers and to rest in the assurance that He is in control. It frees us from the burden of trying to figure everything out on our own and enables us to walk in peace and confidence, knowing that He is guiding our steps.